Greetings YouTube and welcome to my latest weapons build. I have a bunch of these screws. I mean, a whole lot of these screws. I bought them for a project. The project ultimately ended up being an absolute waste of my time because the city's like, you need to put new stair treads down. So I put new stair treads down and then the city said, no, we got to replace all the stairs, entire structure. So I had to tear all the, so I had the guy tear all the stair treads off. I kept them. They're pressure treated wood. I've been using them for different projects since then. But I had to have my entire stairway replaced, which was a long process and was very noisy. But the stairs they put in place are awesome. I love them. So I've got all these really good quality 3-inch screws, and they're just sitting here doing nothing. So I thought, why don't I use these to build a project? So I'm going to make a morning star out of this, essentially, a spiked club. And I'm going to be using this baluster here, which is, again, dirt cheap, easily accessible, and in a post-apocalyptic situation, readily available. Every single deck has got these on them, and these kind of screws are going to be available for most homeowners. So these are items that you could scrounge, you could find. I'm going to be doing something a little different, though. I'm not just going to go through here for two reasons. One, because the shank would actually go right through and would actually have no teeth in there. I'm going to go at a 45-degree angle because that would be very cool looking. Now, how do I end up drilling through that angle? That's how I do it. This is a V-block designed for holding round tubing, and it's been so useful to me in my drill press. This makes drilling holes so much easier. But it's also going to be able to allow me to hold this so I can come in with a drill bit and drill a pilot hole. Now these are self-tapping, so I actually don't need the pilot hole, but this isn't particularly great wood, so I don't want to split it. So I want a pilot hole, and I may go up a drill bit size now that I think about it, because again, this is just fairly soft wood. And I also want to do this because this will let me have a high degree of precision in going from one side to the other. And even if I just use this one, it just barely fits through, but it only has to just barely fit through because, again, this has got a self-tapping. That's going to let me space them the way I want them, because what I'm going to start out doing is I'm going to start out, the first hole is going to be a 1/2 inch. I'm going to rotate it, dunk, and the second hole is going to be at 1 inch, and you rotate it 1.5 inch, rotate it again, 2 inches. So that's how the spiral is going to go, and it's all going to end up with a 1/2 inch spacing between each of these. Obviously, I'm going to just mark the holes and then boom, 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 drill all through one side, then drill all through this side, and then just go around. But when I'm finished and I'm assembling it, it's going to be a spiral. If you look down the center of this, and I'll show you that when I'm done, it will be a spiral of screws. I like that design because I think it's going to give me the best look and the best spacing, because I really don't want these much closer than that to each other, because they have to go, they're going all the way through, so I don't want them to interfere with each other. So that's why I'm moving a 1/2 inch spacing. That should give me just enough space for them to get a bite, and they're not going to interfere with each other. And at the other end, I want to knock the edges off. So I want to turn this into a roughly octagonal shape as opposed to a square shape. Roughly, I mean, again, we're doing a post-apocalyptic theme, so it's not perfect, And I'm going to try this for the very first time. This is a 4.5 inch carbide cup wheel designed, let me read the packaging right here, designed for grinding hard and soft wood, paint, plastic, varnish, gypsum board, rubber, sandstone, cork, limestone, glue residue, leather, and much more. I've never used this. Obviously, it's still in the package. I've never tried it at all, so I'm not going to try it on this at first. I have some scrap wood that I'm going to try it on, and I'm actually going to film that for the first time. I'm going to let you see it live, not live, but in the video. We're going to see how that goes. And I actually figured out a quick camera mount. Now, I picked this camera mount up last year, I believe, and it was designed originally, I guess, for a security camera or something, but what it does, it locks in and it stays, it's very stable, and I just have it clamped to my drill press here because it puts it right in the right location to point it at, and it actually has a small bolt head that holds this whole assembly, and the bolt head fits perfectly into one of those grooves. So it's actually very secure. I could probably keep this stable enough to use as a camera mount without the clamp, but I'm just cautious. And this will be a better setup, at least for this job, right here, because it's at my bench, which is where I do most of my stuff, because unlike my tripod, that's not in my way. This, if I'm taking the picture from here, that's not in my way in any way, shape, or form. Whereas the tripod is in my way, because you've got this tripod with, a 3-foot spread of 3 legs, which is taking up space, and if you bump it, the camera moves and everything. This is mounted to my drill press, which weighs, 50 or 60 pounds, so it's not going anywhere. So that's going to be a much more stable platform for this than anything else I've tried. And we'll give an opportunity for you to see what's going on, though the sound is very likely going to cut out because my angle grinder is very loud, and this is going to make noise as it cuts through the wood, even if it isn't particularly hardwood, because it isn't. I think that's just pine. So first thing I'm going to do is get my drill press set up, take my camera mount off, get my drill press set up so I can, with this, and do all the measurements. Now, one thing I did notice after I purchased this baluster, they're not very expensive, and I was in a hurry, and I didn't realize it had a split. And the split is, can you see the split more readily? I did a better job gluing than I thought I did. I can't see the split all that clearly anymore, but I glued it up with some nice wood glue and clamped it and left it there for 24 hours. And seeing as this entire project is about putting fasteners through it, I'm not really worried about there being a split, because very shortly there's going to be a whole lot of metal holding this piece of wood together. But yeah, if you're buying stuff, do a better inspection than I did, because by the time I found the split in the car, I had already achieved my I am done peopling stage of the day. I didn't want to be around people anymore, so I'm like, screw it, I'll just go home and I'll glue it back together. And it glued up perfectly. So I will do some sanding and stuff when I'm finished to make this look a little better. And I think I've got some tongue oil or something down here. I may wipe on this before I actually start mounting all the screws to make it look slightly better. We'll see. I think I've got some tongue oil kicking around down here. I have to poke around. Yeah, so quite happy with this project idea. I think it's going to work nicely. I get to use up some screws that I had around, so effectively this cost me nothing. The gear I already had was all here. Only thing I had to really purchase was this baluster. Everything else was already in my shop prepared for me. And this is going to be a weird project for me because this does not involve any metalworking. This is all woodworking. We don't do many projects where there's no metalworking. That's almost a little strange for me. Alrighty, so first up, let's get this thing marked so I know where I'm going to be drilling holes. So here we have the V-block set up. I actually had to go to a bigger drill bit because the smaller one I wanted to use won't fit in my chuck. And even tightening on this one was kind of difficult, but I do have it bottomed out, so I'm not too concerned about that. And again, this is softwood. I've got a support set up here, so so it's not going to be flopping around. And I have my marks, and as soon as I get off, I will be using a light as well once I start up. I'll turn that light on. I didn't have it on until I can turn it on now, I guess, because it interferes with my radio. The light actually makes my radio buzz, which is kind of annoying. So I was listening to the radio, that's why I didn't have the light on. But yeah, that's what I'll be using for light. And this is, once the flop around, it won't once I have my hand in there. But I will be wearing a glove on this hand, so I have to go put that on, because I would really rather not have my hand come in contact with the drill bit without a glove on, because I've had that happen. It's not particularly fun. Alrighty, so put a glove on and start drilling holes. And I'm going to draw one hole, and I'm going to try one of the screws in that hole to see if it fits nicely. And if it doesn't, what I'm going to do, because I can't really go smaller. So do I have to get bigger screws? Does my project fail because I have to get thicker screws? Because that means my project idea is not going to function, because the idea was to use scavenged supplies, and I would prefer to use scavenged supplies. So we're going to drill one hole, we're going to try it, and then we'll see what happens. So all the holes are now drilled. Some of them didn't go all the way through, but that's okay as long as I get the pilot. I mean, the screws I'm using are designed to go through wood without a pilot hole, so I'll be able to blow out the backside. And if I do get a little bit of splintering on the exit, I don't care. Like I got a little bit on that one. I don't care if I get a little bit of splintering on that. I really don't. It'll be just fine. So all the holes are drilled. So now I need to set up a piece of scrap wood and set up my camera so I can shake a shot of it and put some PPE on. I need to put some protection gear on. I have an apron, safety glasses, hearing protection because again the angle grinder is very loud. Though it won't be as loud on wood as it is on metal. It's still very loud. And once I get that all set up, you'll hopefully in the next clip will be show me working on a piece of scrap wood with that new disc I've got and seeing how it works. How much effort do I have to apply? You know, how much forces, angles, and things like that. Because I've never used one. So we're about to have quite possibly a sharp learning curve ahead. All right. So here we have the setup I'm going to do it on. You probably can't see my head. Sorry about that. I'm liking this setup. I'm liking that camera setup. It's working for me. So now I got to slap some gloves on and we're going to give this a shot. One thing I did notice right off the bat when I was putting the disc in my angle grinder is there isn't what you call a lot of clearance in here. In fact, one of the little abrasive bits had been welded on this side and I had to snap it off the edge of my guard here. So yeah, this is going to be fun. It does spin safely, so that's not a danger. So I tested that, make sure I wasn't going to like have this thing blow up in my hands, and it's not gonna. But now we're going to try this piece of scrap wood I just kicking around. I don't even remember what the hell it was for. So we're going to see what happens. Wish me luck. So that wasn't too bad, so I'm going to flip this around, work on the other one. And I've got my clamp going through one of my bent dog holes. I use those holes sometimes if I need to put something, get some pressure against something. They also work quite well as a space for my clamp to go through to give me some other clamping options. And there is friggin' dust everywhere now, because this was clean when I started. Now it is not clean. Alright, I'm going to try that again. If I had like one of these discs in here, I could put that down before it stops, but this disc has not got much clearance. So I quite like that. That came out quite nice. And again, I'm not looking for fine craftsmanship here. I realize that I'm not doing, I could get like a router and stuff, but I'm looking for fast and dirty here. And that's a fast and dirty edge. So now I should be able to take this and do the same thing with it. I'll mark off where I want to start on all four sides and then use that as my, so I just want to get the edge knocked off a little bit so that's a little bit more comfortable, because this isn't necessarily a bad diameter, but having those edges here does make it slightly awkward. So I'm going to see if I can get that to come down, and then after that I will do some sanding to get the finish look better, get the excess glue and crap off from my repair I had to do about the the split I had. Oops. And then we'll be all set. So that's how that came out. It came out too bad. Did a pretty decent job on that my first try, and it's got a nice feel to it. I can actually feel the wood ever so slightly, so that's good. I like getting some haptic feedback with what I'm doing. When you're doing metal, it's much different. You get much more stiff, obviously, but excellent. So put that over here out of the way, and so now we're going to give that a try. I'm not going to film that section because you probably had enough of that already. So the next step will be the finished section, the finished shaping, and I can listen to the radio while I'm doing it in the background if I want to crank the volume up. I did find my tung oil, so I've put a coat on here just to give it a little bit, darken it up a little, give it a slight bit of water protection. And I also dug out a small hook, which I'll be putting down here on the end when I'm finished, just so I can hang this thing, because it's going to be relatively dangerous when I'm finished. So what I have to do now is I have this in the wrong position. I got to find the ½ side first. And then I'm going to do all the ½ side first, and when I'm done, I'll rotate it and do all the 1 side, then the 1½. And then the 2 inches. And I'm going to do them one at a time so they don't get them going in the wrong direction. Which I did this one. I saw this like, oh, that's great, but that's the wrong spacing. I got to make sure I have the correct spacing, and I don't have the correct spacing at the moment. So I have to rotate this to the right position, and so I can start putting in the screws, and I will be using my drill to help me with that because I don't want to do this all by hand. That's going to be way too tedious. I'll be using a power drill, and I'm really happy with this this change of the grip, making it an octagon. I mean, it's a very rough octagon, but it's an octagon, and I think this is a testament to the fact that, you know, I should probably get myself a router. Actually have a router, make sure the router's working, and then get a router table. Because if I had a router table, I could have had a heck of a lot easier job. And I did sand it, and I also, in the process of sanding, I knocked these down so that they were a little more bit transition. So, hopefully, the next clip will have me with a finished weapon. So here we have the finished project. I'm keeping this glove on because I'm going to be turning this around. This is damn dangerous. So here's the spiral. It starts at ½ inch, 1 inch, 1½, 2 inch. See it? It's just beautiful. Now if you look at it down the end, it is not perfect. It is not perfect. That's part of it because the wood isn't perfect. And my setup wasn't perfect, but you know, it's very close to being in line with each other. And I put the little hook on the end, so that's all set. And because this is pine, this is very light. This is very fast. If you were going to make one of these for probably actual combat, you probably want to use a hardwood. It will give you more strength and probably give you a little bit more mass behind it. But right now, this is a very fast item. It really moves quite quickly. I don't think I could wield it really effectively one-handed. I may give it a try, but two-handed, this thing is just gonna buzz. This is much lighter than a baseball bat. So yeah, that was definitely a fun little project. Didn't take me too long. There was a lot of setup and there was a lot of drilling. You know, and a little bit of learning curve because I actually had to take it. You know, I had to learn how to use that disc. But now that I know how to use it, I'm very happy, and I think that opens up quite a few opportunities for me in the future. Might make a number of things that I want to do in the future much more possible. That's going to be a surprise for you. So now I'm going to take some stills outside with this camera for the video, and then for my still camera, from my phone, from my Instagram account, where you should follow me, and you should also follow me on DeviantArt, where I store the permanent stills of my weapons build. So, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope that you'll come back for the next one.